All right, in this video, we're going to talk about incomplete dominance and dihybrid traits. Incomplete dominance is where you have two different alleles that, when in the heterozygous condition, produce a third phenotype that's a blend of the two alleles. For example, there is a type of flower where a red flower and a white flower will have pink offspring. So you've added a phenotype. It's like you blended the white and the red. So that's what we're going to look at first. It's non-Mendelian, meaning it's not a simple dominant recessive trait. Typically, the way that you do your genotypes is with this prime. So G, G prime, and that's because one's not dominant over the other. I don't like using the prime. I actually just use a different letter, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But whenever you see G, G prime, or whenever you see multiple phenotypes where one is kind of in between the other two in a blended way, then that is indicative of both genes being expressed but blended together. In tobacco, so we're going to see an example of one of these problems, and I'm going to kind of try to work them over here. So in tobacco, there are three colors of leaves. GG is green. Green-yellow or yellow-green is a mix. That's the heterozygous. But I don't do it as GG prime. I'll do GY. That's going to be green-yellow or yellow-green, however you want to say it. And then yellow is going to be completely the other gene, like this. All right? So this would be GG, GG prime, and G prime, G prime. The primes just mess me up. I miss them when I'm answering questions. This, it's easier to not miss. All right, to obtain all three colors from one cross, we would have to cross a green plant with a yellow plant. I think the easiest way to illustrate how that question's answered is to take a green plant, show the parent cross. I'm crossing green with yellow. This parent can only contribute a green allele. This parent can only contribute a Y allele. So all the offspring are going to be yellow-green. Now go back to the question. To obtain all three colors, we would have to cross a green with a yellow. Well, I crossed a green with a yellow, and I sure didn't end up with all three colors, so that's false. All right, looking at the next one, 14. We're going to cross a green plant with a yellow-green plant. So here's our key. A green plant is GG. A yellow plant, we're crossing with a yellow-green plant, is GY. Always write out your parent cross. Don't try to do that in your head. Even if it's an easy problem, write out the parent cross. So if I just look at what I can get, the question is, would never result in a yellow plant. In order to have a yellow plant, I need that combination. Can I get that from these parents? No. This parent can contribute a Y, but this parent cannot. So I cannot get a yellow plant. So that answer is true. 15. If we obtain a phenotypic ratio of 1 yellow to 1 yellow-green, what color were the parents? So 15, I have a 1-to-1 ratio of yellow to yellow-green. Okay? And I want to know what the parents were. These are the offspring. So we know that yellow-green is the heterozygous. We know that that individual is this. And we know that the yellow individuals are this. So this describes all the offspring. Half of them are yellow, YY. Half of them are green, GY. My question says, to obtain a phenotypic ratio of 1-to-1, what color were the parents? The only way I can get this combination is if that's what the parents were. So if I get half my offspring with one genotype and half with the other, 1-to-1 means that my parents were one heterozygous, so one of the parents has to be heterozygous, and then the other parent was homozygous. And in this instance, in order to get yellow, that parent would have had to be yellow. So you can do the cross and see that that will give you that particular phenotypic ratio, which is right here. You'd have to have one yellow, green, and one yellow. Now, the alternative to kind of thinking backwards that way is to just make Punnett squares from all of these combinations. It would take you a minute to do that, but it would make you more certain of your answer. All right, I'm going to try to get you away from doing Punnett squares as much as possible. All right, for 16, now we're talking about dihybrid crosses. In P's, and always start off problems with a key, yellow is dominant to green, and round is dominant to wrinkled. Okay? If a yellow wrinkled P, so yellow something, we know if it's yellow, it's a big Y, and if it's wrinkled, it's little r, little r. A yellow wrinkled P, heterozygous for color. So if it's heterozygous for color, it's heterozygous for yellow. That means it's got a little y there. Write out in your parents what you know and then fill in as you read more. Is crossed with a green wrinkled P. The only way you can be green wrinkled is all little letters. So Y, Y, oops, R, R. All right? Find my question here. What is the expected phenotypic ratio? In other words, what are my offspring going to look like? So here's how I wouldn't do a Punnett square with this. If you know the ratios that I told you, 1 to 1 means that the parents were heterozygous crossed with homozygous recessive. 3 to 1 means that the parents were both heterozygous. If you remember those, and then the other two later, you can actually solve a lot of problems without doing Punnett squares. So if I'm looking here, I've got half and half, which is 1 to 1, and you can see what that ratio is. So that means that half of my offspring are going to have this genotype, which is yellow. The other half are going to have this genotype, which is green. Then, if I look at the shape trait, all of the offspring are going to be little r, little r. That's all you can get. So that means that 1/2 are going to be yellow round, and 1/2 are going to be green round. So that ratio is 1 to 1. Because it was asking what is the phenotype ratio. So this ratio here is 1 to 1. All right, for 17, I'm going to work that up here. From the information in the problem above, that means the key that we had down here. So your yellow, green, round, and wrinkled. If a yellow round P, homozygous for both traits. So if it's yellow, that's the dominant trait, and it's homozygous. Round is the dominant trait, and it's homozygous. Is crossed with a P that is green and wrinkled. So green and wrinkled. That's the only way that we can get that. You don't have to do a Punnett square. The only thing that the parent contributes, or that these two parents can contribute here, is a big Y and a little y. So all their offspring are going to be heterozygous for yellow. Also, all of their offspring are going to be big R, little r, heterozygous for round. So the only thing that you can get is yellow and round. All right, now 18. We're looking at free earlobes. So this is number 18. Free earlobes, which is dominant, and attached earlobes, which is recessive. And also the ability to taste PTC paper. Tasters are dominant, non-tasters are recessive. So Alvin has free earlobes. So that means Alvin is big F something, We don't necessarily know his other letter because he could be homozygous dominant or he could be heterozygous for that trait. We also know that he's unable to taste PTC. The only way you can be a non-taster is to have two little alleles. And we want to know his genotype. All right. We know that Alvin's father had attached earlobes. So that means his father had to be little f to have attached earlobes, which furthermore means that that's the only allele that his father could have contributed to Alvin. So Alvin is heterozygous because his father contributed that small f. Alvin marries Katrina, who has free earlobes and is a taster. So she has free earlobes and is a taster, both dominant traits, and she's homozygous for both traits. All right. Will all of their kids be tasters and have free earlobes? Well, because Katrina can only contribute a big F and can only contribute a big T, all of their offspring are going to have a big F and a big T, regardless of what Alvin contributes. So that means that all of their children will be tasters and they will all have free earlobes. And that kind of answers the next question too. Could they expect a kid with attached earlobes? There's no way to get attached earlobes if Katrina can only contribute a big F. None of their kids could have two little Fs. They could get a little F from Alvin, but they couldn't get one from Katrina. So the answer to that one is no. All right, this next one, number 20. So this is a big problem. T for tall, little t for short, because it says tall is caused by a dominant allele. Flower color is incomplete dominance, and you get 3 phenotypes. So you get purple. That means in order to be purple, you've got to have 2 purple alleles. In order to be white, you've got to have 2 white alleles. And that means lavender is going to be a mixture of the 2. So we're going to cross a tall purple flower. So tall, which is the dominant, and we'll fill in this as soon as we know what it is, and it's purple. The only way you can be purple is 2 P's. Then I keep reading and it says, which is heterozygous for height. So that means that that's a heterozygous trait there. Is crossed with a tall lavender flower, also heterozygous for height. So heterozygous, but this time lavender. All right, so how do you go about working this? You could make a couple Punnett squares, and we'll make one. I'll show you with the Punnett squares how to do that. If I'm just going to look at the first trait, which is height, that means I'm looking at this cross here. Make a Punnett square, big T, little t. So one thing you can memorize, when you have a heterozygous, we know that the phenotype ratio is 3 to 1. The genotype ratio is 1 to 2 to 1, meaning it'll have one of each of the homozygous, so 1 big T, 1 little t, and then 2 of the big T, little t. So in short, what that means, when I do this cross, I'm going to have 1/4 big T. I'm going to have 1/2 big T, little t, and I'm going to have 1/4 little t. Then, if you want to do this Punnett square, you'll see that you're going to get half and half. When you have a homozygous and a heterozygous, your offspring are half and half. So we'll just kind of illustrate that here. So you can see I've got half big P, half big P, W. So I'm going to have half big P, half big P, big W. Now, to get the overall ratio, you just multiply. In order to have this first combination here, big T, big T, big P, you're going to have 1/4 times 1/2, which is 1/8. Then you're going to combine the tall trait with the lavender. So that's 1/4 times 1/2 as well. So you're going to have 1/8 big T, PW. Now let's look at this one. You're going to have 1/2 times 1/2. So you're going to have 1/4 or 2/8 big T, big P. And then 1/2 times 1/2, which again is which is 1/4 or 2/8 big T, and then lavender. And then finally, you're going to have 1/4 times 1/2, which is 1/8 little t, big P, and then here 1/8 little t, lavender. So there's your ratio, 1 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 1 to 1. And if you look over here, you can see that 1 to 2 to 1 to 1 to 2 to 1. So you can kind of see where those are. This is your answer. All right, and then what is the phenotypic ratio? Well, you've got 1/8 tall purple. So these are tall, move it over. Tall purple. These are tall lavender. These are tall purple. These are tall lavender. Short purple and short lavender. So what I've got is 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. 6 out of 8 or 3/4 are tall lavender, and then 2/8 or 1/4 are short. I'm sorry, tall purple. Wait a minute, I did that wrong. So we got, let's leave, it's getting late. Let's do that again. So tall purple. Nope, that's lavender. So I've got 1/8 and 2/8, which is 3/8, are tall purple. Then I've got 1/8 and 2/8, another 3/8 that are tall lavender. Then I've got 1/8 and 1/8 for the other two traits, short purple and short lavender. So I'm 3 to 3 to 1 to 1. So if I look over here, I can see that ratio right there. Is there any way to get 2 offspring from this cross that could produce short and white? Well, if these are my parents, I can get short, I can get little t here, but can I get white? For white, I need WW. I can get a W here, but not here. So the answer to that is no. All right, that's it. And what you need to do is work on problems 23 through the next set, I think is 37. Yeah, 23 through 37 for next time.